Hey everybody, welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about TV we watch. I am Daniel, she is Hope. This is episode 39.
I put the number in the show notes.
Yes, that was very helpful. It's officially spooky season as we are midway through October and careening ever so faster towards Halloween.
Yes, and soon Christmas.
And soon Christmas.
Yay. Oh, you love Christmas.
Yeah, the day of Christmas.
No, see, the day of Christmas.
Not the 3 months.
Excuse me. The day of Christmas, and it's 2 months, and then with a break with Thanksgiving. The day of Christmas is sad because that means the magic is almost over. The fun is all the build up to it. All the movies, the fun. You mean to tell me that you don't think Michael Caine gave an Oscar-worthy performance in A Muppet Christmas Carol?
Oh, he sure did. He absolutely did. He did not need to go that hard.
No.
He played it as serious as a car accident.
Where he's talking about working in Fozzie's rubber chicken factory.
You know what was spooky? My
What?
McDonald's trip the other day.
It really was. You've been on a McDonald's kick.
Bit of a
I don't
kick.
eat McDonald's, so I've just been there for the trips with you.
Coincidentally, every McDonald's trip I've had in the past month, you've been with me. And every single one of those trips, suddenly I have to wait on my food. They pull me into the wait lane. Mm-hmm. Never do that when it's just me, but when it's you and I've got your staring at me, because not only have you already criticized me for going to McDonald's, but now you're criticizing me for waiting on McDonald's.
And all you're getting is a quarter pounder, no cheese, and a fry.
Yeah, I think it's that no cheese thing that screws them up.
Yeah, I wonder if they go ahead and make them up ahead of time and just have the cheese already sitting there.
We didn't make when I worked there a million years ago. We did not pre-make the quarter pounders. Now we did pre-make.
You were mainly there for breakfast. You did like.
I was switchover guy, so I handled breakfast, but then I also handled the switch over to lunch. And once the
that's right. McDonald's thinks lunch counts at 10 a.m. Right?
I got off at 1.
Yeah, but they think that people are eating lunch food at 10 in the morning.
Oh, they were.
Proceed. I know where you're going because we had a very weird experience.
So our McDonald's here in town now has one of those dual lane things where two people are given their order at the same time, and you got to have that awkward moment where
it's been that way for a while.
Where if you both finished at the same time and you start pulling up, you got to merge back together, and everybody's got to be polite about it.
It's been like a decade since they've had that. It's been a long time.
So we get up to the window to pay.
So people should be used to it, right?
Well, you would think.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that I've ever heard of this situation. Mm-hmm. We get up to the window to pay, and the lady leans out the window, is like, "What'd you have?" I said, the quarter pounder, no cheese and fries.
I chimed in with no cheese because I know how particular you are.
And she's like, well, that's what that guy up front of you says he had.
And we were like, okay.
And I was like, all right, well, that doesn't change.
I mean, it's not like McDonald's has like the Cheesecake Factory binder menu. They've only got a few items. So, like, I feel like it'd be very common for people to order the same thing.
And so, like,
you know?
Yeah, yes. And it just got weird. Because then she gets on her headset and starts talking to her manager. But she's looking at you. But she's looking straight at me as she's talking.
And I just start laughing.
And anyways, eventually she pulls us up. We never paid for anything.
She's like, well, that guy...
I don't know if that was on purpose.
That guy said that he had that. He said he had it. It's not my fault this time. This guy said...
She was saying all that to somebody in the ether.
Looking at you while she said
looking directly at me as she said it. And then they finally pull me up. I never paid for anything.
No.
I don't know if that was like intentional on their part. They're like, oh, we've given this guy so much trouble, let's just let him go. Or if they just forgot.
I just found it weird that like they couldn't just key it in and fix it. I feel like the employees probably gotten in trouble for mixing up orders before. That's why it was such a production. Because I'm like, just key it in and like...
What was funny
do
was
it again.
the guy they pulled him up into the wait lane to wait on his quarter pounder that he said he'd got, but he didn't really order.
He really got a Big Mac.
And we got it right away.
And I guess, what was the bumper stickers on the back of his car?
Oh,
F around and find out.
Yeah, F around and find out. And then like a skull and crossbones instead of crossbones, it was like hatchets or something weird. And then he was a AAA member. So I just felt that.
So I guess he F'd around and found out.
Yeah, he did. So.
But I never eat McDonald's, but I am excited to go on Tuesday. Actually, today, the day of this podcast, the Boo Buckets are supposed to be back out. Those are things from my childhood I fondly remember. I did not get a Boo Bucket last year. I think last year was the first year they brought them back. So you might have to go back and and meet your friends.
You know what?
I'm going to call them to make sure they have the boo buckets ready, though, because I'm not going to send you all the way there.
Folks, you'd be surprised how many of our local fast food establishments this woman has called.
Yeah, I called Wendy's once because we had gone through, it's when I have a bad experience. So, okay, the first fast food restaurant I called was actually McDonald's a long time ago when they were doing that little promotion where they were serving breakfast all day. Apparently, we were a biscuit market.
Yeah, we're a biscuit market.
And I'm like, but I want an Egg McMuffin. And they were like, no, we're a biscuit market. The Egg McMuffin, you have to get that till like 10 a.m. And I'm like, what? And then Wendy's, one time I desperately wanted a chocolate Frosty, and all they had was that terrible strawberry one left. So I called that night when we were wanting Frosties. Oh, yeah. And then we got, not only did we get an answer, but we got told that the Frosty machine with the strawberry nearly blew up her restaurant. So yes, they had chocolate available. So yes, I will be calling to.
What are they putting in those Frosties that they blow machines up?
I have no idea. Does McDonald's still have apple dippers for the kids' meals? That's what I always got when I was like a kid.
I worked there in 2008. I don't remember. I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
It's been a long time.
Do you want to talk about what we actually watched?
Well, speaking of spooky, scary season, we've actually been on that train.
Scary.
So, as you all know, we've been watching What We Do in the Shadows, but we picked up a couple other things this week.
Yes.
First up on the list is we watched the Haunted Mansion movie, not the Eddie Murphy one, the new one.
The new one
with
Ahsoka,
Owen
Rosario
Dawson. I don't know anybody else.
Owen Wilson.
Danny DeVito was in it.
Jared Leto.
Oh yeah, Jared Leto was in it.
Jared Leto. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
To name some of the big names. So it was like basically, even though we didn't have Ahsoka this week, we got to see Ahsoka, aka Rosario, in this, and then we got to see her with Mobius and Loki, who we already watched Loki. So my Disney people showing up. I think that this movie, I do not know why Disney does this. Did they not learn anything from Hocus Pocus back in the day? Not saying that this is going to turn into a cult classic like Hocus Pocus did, but the original, like when Hocus Pocus first aired, the first movie, that came out in like July in like 1993. And this one, when was this? It was after Barbie came out, but Barbie was still very popular. So Barbie was like late July, and I feel like this might have been like early August.
It came out around the same time as Ninja Turtles,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And it was not in theaters very long, but I'm like, why would you put a movie called The Haunted Mansion in summer when a lot of let's face it, our girl Barbie owned the summer season. Like, why not wait and hold that movie off till like October? Not a lot of movies come out in October. I've noticed this. Like, you have some of the slasher movies and stuff sometimes.
I wonder if they don't want to compete with the slashers from Halloween, but it's not even at the same audience. I don't know what the thought process is. It's like a cute family movie. I mean, I feel like there were some parts in it like that little kids watching might have been like more afraid of. So if you have like little ones, I would recommend you watch the Muppet Haunted Mansion kind of mini movie that they did on Disney+. I would recommend that anyways.
That's honestly my favorite of the renditions they did. But yeah, I don't know why. Like, that's a movie I wanted to see over the summer, and then of course, just like with Ninja Turtles, it was not at our theater for hardly any time at all. And then I looked on my phone and I was like, oh, it's going to be coming to Disney+. And I think it landed like a couple weeks ago, like maybe like October 5th.
Yeah,
I feel like it came out. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cute. I feel like if you are a fan of the ride at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, you're going to enjoy this movie because they're like, remember the flash joke, the flash photography? They're like, you're talking about the ghosts. They're like, oh, don't use your flash. They hate that. Because anytime, if anybody's ever been on one of those rides and you always have some idiot in front of you that uses the flash on their camera, it'll mess with like the effects, and oftentimes it causes the ride to stall. There's actually a picture of us on the ride one time where I'm literally turning to you and complaining about someone using their flash, and they like caught it on camera, us like totally having like a nasty look on our faces, like, oh, look at that person with their camera. I thought it was cute. It was interesting for me to see, because I've been so used to seeing Rosario as, Ahsoka, very subdued.
Sure.
To see her in a little bit more of like a peppy type of role. I thought it was good. I'm not going to say it's the best movie I've ever seen. If I'm picking between the three kind of like entities of Haunted Mansion, which you and I saw the Eddie Murphy one together, all I know is they're realtors. I have no idea the plot. I can barely remember it, probably for good reason. That came out, I think, in 2003. Well, that's really old. The Muppet little mini movie they did a couple years ago. I've called it more like a TV special, right, for Disney+.
Yeah, it was like a TV special
and
for
this
Disney+.
one, the Muppets one the superior version of the three, but I thought this was good. I was entertained. It actually even made me a little emotional at times. Like I actually got a little emotional at times.
It was fine. That's it. It was just fine. It was
Okay, he says that it was just fine, but you were enjoying it. I can tell when you are enjoying a movie and when you're entertained.
I think you're misunderstanding my rating system.
Why do you have to have the shtick every time?
Doesn't mean I didn't have a good time. It doesn't mean that I hated entirely. It doesn't mean that I didn't have a laugh or anything like that.
It was fine.
But it was fine. Like, it wasn't like I won't watch it.
It was fine is equal to mine. It was good.
Oh, is that good? Boy, that's going a step too far.
When I say something, it was fine, that means I really didn't care for it very much. And that's the complete opposite of you. It was fine. I enjoyed it. Would I watch it again? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't like it wasn't offensive to me. It wasn't something that like I disliked overtly.
I thought it was funny.
Well, Danny DeVito was in it.
Of course. There's one joke he made. One of the main characters' wife passed away, so this guy had been like trying to connect with her, but obviously, spoiler alert, again, we are a spoiler podcast. She's found peace, to be assumed.
Right.
But he's talking about, he's like, yeah, we used to like to go for a run, but then she wouldn't want to run. She'd want to eat like cheese fries. Then she wanted to go out and get tater tots. So he's telling this like really nice story, and everybody's kind of tearing up at the table. And then suddenly Danny DeVito's character, which I feel like it was probably Danny DeVito ad-libbing.
Maybe.
Like, he's like, what
wow,
does he say?
what was the cholesterol on that one, on that broad, I think is what he said.
And then they just sat at the table and they just started laughing. I liked how the premise of the movie was kind of like the ride. You're, to find a way out, or a hitchhiking ghost might follow you home. So if you tried to leave, then once you stepped foot in the mansion, if you tried to leave, a hitchhiking ghost would go with you, but they'd want to be brought back. So they would kind of terrorize you. And then none of them could leave. They had to find a way out. And then the music, the soundtrack from the ride, when they went to the other house to figure out where the Hatbox Ghost, his former residence, we had an uncredited appearance by Dan Levy and Winona Ryder.
Yeah, and I got thinking about that because for our listeners who haven't seen it yet, and maybe for our listeners who aren't Disney fanatics, the haunted mansion of this movie is kind of the haunted mansion that exists in Disneyland
in New Orleans
California.
Square.
Yeah.
So that's why the movie takes place in New Orleans.
Did you notice that haunted mansion that they went to also kind of looked like the one in Disney World?
I did not notice that, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't as close, but it was definitely more, that kind of architectural style.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. I was just too like, why do I hear Winona Ryder? And then suddenly they showed her, and I'm like,
yeah.
That's Winona Ryder. No one told me she was in this
movie. Dan Levy was even shorter of a...
Yeah, his was like a blink and you miss it, because they basically run in the house as like a bed and breakfast, like faux haunted tour. Kind of those, I call them Clue nights, like a murder mystery kind of session. Yeah. It felt like that's what they were doing that for. And then you walk past one of the rooms, and for my Disney fanatics out there, you hear just a little riff of It's a Small World After All, which to some people could be a scarier ride than the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, it is for me.
Didn't we get stuck on it for like 15 minutes once?
Yeah, it was awful.
In the same section. But you always say that you like to ride it, though, because it's a good sit. It's like a 15-minute ride, a good sit.
As I've aged...
It is a classic.
As I've aged, the seats on Small World have gotten less and less comfortable.
So you've aged since like August, when you're like, let's go ride this because I need to sit down.
We didn't ride Small World in August.
We didn't?
No.
Well, we rode it in June.
Okay. Then yes, I have aged since June. 6 months about.
Fine for you is good for me. Sorry, our writing systems will just, that's the way it's always going to be for us.
I will work on publishing a formal written guide to my rating system, if that's what everyone desires.
I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen, that I can tell when Daniel is enjoying something. And I could tell he was enjoying this movie, because at one point I turned to you and I was like, wow, Rosario has such a good range, because I was just used to her as Ahsoka. And I said, and meanwhile, Owen Wilson, I'm just seeing like Mobius, but in a different role, because I feel like Owen Wilson kind of has the same kind of attitude in each movie. And you're like, but would you have it any other way? No, I wouldn't. I like that he plays.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Owen Wilson doing anything other than Owen Wilson things.
Owen Wilson, and his name is now escaping me. Why is this Vince Vaughn? I feel like they often play the same characters. There's a couple movies where they, like, I think Vince Vaughn was in like Psycho, the remake, where clearly he's not playing the same character in that. They both kind of have that shtick about him, just like Daniel's It's Fine shtick. So we watched a movie. I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the ride. I feel like most people in my Disney groups that I'm in all really liked the movie, so I think they definitely made it for their parks audience that enjoy the ride more so than the general people with the little wings. But I thought it was a cute movie. Sure. I feel like it would have been fine just releasing it to Disney Plus if they didn't, or they should have waited till October. I think it definitely suffered from it came out way too early.
I agree, yeah. But no, I like if you've got Disney Plus and you're looking for something to watch.
Yeah, and you don't want something overly scary.
Yeah, Halloween time, movie you got kids, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll serve its purpose.
Like if you have small ones, some of the ghost stuff I do think might be a little scary for them. So just explain to them
it is
that
PG-13. I think that's overrated.
There were some parts that I could see some kids being afraid of, but I've also seen kids as scared in like the stretching room, like in the parks.
I guess
I
have to forget that every kid's dad didn't sit them down with Alien when they were like 10. So
yeah, the first time I saw Alien, I didn't find it scary at all. And
would you as a 10-year-old?
I know that's what you said.
Yeah.
But Daniel hadn't seen it since he was like 10, and he's like, "This is so scary," and I'm sitting there like. Because I've actually seen some full-blown scary movies, and you're like, well, I guess I was 10. Now, the part where the alien pops out, and then remember on the old Great Movie Ride before it was that... we don't like the Mickey's Minnie's Runaway Rail Train. We don't hate it. I'm going to say that ride is fine. So what rating do you give that ride?
It's fine.
Oh, so you like it better than me then? You're giving the Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway a grade of 5.
There's nothing offensive about it other than it is in the place of one of my all-time favorite rides from Hollywood Studios.
So you're actually you like it more than I do. Because I've
only ridden it once, so I can't say that I have strong opinions one way or the other.
Anyhow, remember the great ride.
I do. I remember that, yes.
The Great Movie Ride. And that part always scared me on the ride, though, where the alien... came down.
Yeah. Alien still is a classic all-time movie, even if it's not as scary as you think, as I hyped it up to you to be.
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. It was fine.
Hey, we watched something else.
Something really good
something
so far.
We're excited about. So we, Netflix, every couple years, Mike Flynn does a...
I thought it was Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan, sorry. It's Mike
Flanagan,
It's Mike
right?
Flanagan.
Okay.
Produces, and does a kind of a scary times show for him. So think... what was the first one? The
Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Bly Manor.
Haunting of Bly Manor.
Last one was
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
And then we are watching now the Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes.
He's basically like the Judd Apatow of like kind of that spooky thriller, a little bit of horror mystery type thing, because he, how like Judd Apatow in all his movies tends to use that same group of characters.
Sure.
Or not characters, but actors.
Yeah.
This guy uses, like, you'll see the same people that you've seen clear from Hill House, the first thing he did, sprinkled in all throughout these. And I like that.
Yeah, I
enjoy it.
I actually get excited thinking, okay, is so-and-so going to be in it? Who are they going to be this time? So,
oh, for sure.
This is on Netflix. We just watched the first episode.
Fantastic.
Really good. I'm really excited to watch the rest of it. And unlike everything else out there in the streaming world, we're just going to be able to watch. By the time we get to next week's episode, we will most assuredly have finished this.
Most likely. I think we're going to probably fly through this one. It is, they are longer episodes. I think the first episode was about an hour.
52 minutes, I think, is what it came out to. So, yeah, they're longer.
It was really good. We did not finish Midnight Mass. I've heard mixed reviews on that. Some people say it did get better eventually. We didn't love what we had seen, so maybe someday we'll go back. But the other two, Hill House and Bly Manor, absolutely loved those. I feel like this one started off, it's almost given me Succession but horror vibes, because it's all about the Usher family, and it starts off the kind of like the patriarch of the family, all his kids are dead, and you learn that within like the first like a few minutes of the movie. And the mystery is who's the informant that was ratting on the family. How did they die? What's going on? So it's definitely got that mystery, thriller, touch of horror.
And it's riffing on
Perfect
a lot.
For October.
It's riffing on a lot of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes.
Like the Fall of the House of Usher is a Edgar Allan Poe story. Yeah. But there's a lot more. Like the Raven is very prevalent so far.
And the last episode is entitled The Raven. I know that.
And so there's lots of stuff like that going on, which Edgar Allan Poe is awesome. So that I like seeing his stuff kind of brought into into a modern context is exciting to me.
And I'm just glad to be dusting off Netflix again. I feel like
it's the first time I've gotten in there in a while. And I just want to note, and I know that Netflix content hasn't been what it used to be.
It really fell off.
But let me tell you something, folks. Their app is unbeatable.
The only thing I don't like about it is sometimes I have to mute it if I'm searching because it wants to play everything.
Apparently you can turn that off. But
yeah, I've done that before.
Regardless of that?
No, I've done that before, and then it resets the next time. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Let me know, people.
But regardless of that, it just flows. It doesn't hang. It plays its stuff quickly. Nobody else, Paramount Plus, Hulu, even Disney Plus lately has been messing with us. Yeah. Just being weird.
Do you think it's because you're more used to Netflix because it was the first one, or do you just truly like it better?
I don't know. Okay, regardless
I like it better, like the layout.
Of the system, of the layout and all that stuff, it works better.
Yes.
Like, it plays stuff, it pauses, it doesn't jump around on me in weird, unexpected ways like some of the other apps do.
Paramount Plus is the weirdest one because sometimes you'll get in there and it'll just start playing a show, but you can't see the show. And you just hear it, and you're still searching, and it's like, do I have like the Hill House in my own home? Do I have like a TV ghost? What is going on? Is there a ghost in my Fire Stick? So it was nice to, I think I watched part of a movie that I haven't finished yet on Netflix, but we really haven't. I would say Netflix, which used to be our top used one, has definitely become the least used.
We got like what?
So now we finally have something on Netflix.
We got 10 minutes into Witcher in August.
And we're like,
or
this
July.
Is awful.
July, and just like that's the last time I got into Netflix.
I think eventually we'll finish The Witcher because I need to at least see out the Henry Cavill era, but I have not. I did not hear good things.
Oh, how the mighty fall. So beyond those things, we did watch. We were gifted. We got 2 episodes of Frasier this week,
and we didn't know it.
We didn't know it because we watched the first one and just went on with our lives. And then
we didn't go on with our lives. We suffered by watching WVU pull off one of the most WVU losses I have ever seen. So that kind of, was the bummer of Thursday. Last week's bummer.
But you were rewarded afterwards when you found out you had another episode of Frasier to watch.
It was just a minor flick of Cupid's bow.
So I'm just going to back off. What did you think of Frasier so far in 2 episodes?
I have a lot of thoughts. I could do the whole podcast with it. I feel like my feelings align with those of the people that are in the Reddit group for Frasier, and I feel like I hate to do that like gatekeepy fan thing because you're gonna have the casuals, but we're like the crazy fans that love Frasier. Frasier's our favorite show. We always rewatch it. I mean, I'm in a Reddit group for a show that ended I think Frasier ended in 2004 or 2003. Did it end around the same time as Friends? So it ended in 2004, right?
Same year as Friends, yes.
So a show that ended 19 years ago, I still just talk about constantly. And most of the vibe there is we like it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. It's Kelsey Grammer snapped right back into that role. I had no really doubts that he would do that. I figured he'd be able to just right back into the role at Frasier. Obviously, Frasier's older now and everything, but it felt like Frasier. My biggest complaint is probably very trite, I guess, would be just the sets. I loved the sets of the original Frasier, the apartment, Cafe Nervosa. It all just felt like home to me. And this just reminds me of the Big Bang Theory sets, just not very warm, it's too modern for me. And I know I understand that we're years later, but I think that's just kind of the tone of modern shows. And you were telling me that camera technology
plays a role.
Is better.
You can't see as many details on those 90s shows that you can see on these new shows, so they have to fill them with stuff that makes it, I don't know, the reason they look different is not just the set design, it's also the technology that we're working with. Same reason why actors are having trouble with 4K, because sometimes it shows a lot more blemishes on them than it used to.
Well, I know that it's filmed in front of a live studio audience, and I know the original one was too, but I never felt like the original set of Frasier's apartment looked like a play. This kind of looks like a play, like a stage to me.
Yeah, there was different. They're definitely more two-dimensional in their sets on this show versus Frasier's apartment had some three-dimensionality to it. And I don't know how they pulled that off in the production side of it, if that's just how the set looked, but it definitely is flatter on the sets we've seen so far.
You're right, though, with what you told me that, Frasier's apartment and set is probably the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's one of the all-time sitcom sets to ever exist.
Ultimately, though, if that's my number one complaint, I think the show's doing pretty well. I mean, I feel like my complaint about the sets is a very Daniel complaint about production value and stuff on a show that you always talk about. From that, I wasn't sure about the change of Freddie Crane, because I'm so used to the actor that still is acting that previously played him, but I think this guy did a good job. They did, one of our questions that you and I were concerned about was, well, we know that, he was the spelling bee champion. He got into the Marbury Academy. We're in. Think of the Thanksgiving episode. Such a classic. So we know he's really smart and that he's been raised on kind of the finer things in life with both Frasier. And I don't think Lilith is more neurotic. She's not as, I think, elitisty, uptight,
yes.
kind of like Frasier is.
That's the impression I get of her, yes.
So, but he knows, obviously, about these things from both of his parents. And, of course, he has, the everyday man stuff from Martin, who we are led to believe he became very incredibly close with throughout the show. But they addressed that. Freddie had been in Harvard. He dropped out. He just doesn't like it. He didn't have fun. So we have our answer there. I did find it very odd that, because it kind of started off, they recognized Martin's death because obviously the actor is no longer here, so of course we can't have Martin in the show. And I'm like, okay, this does not make sense to me that Freddie would miss this funeral. And then the way they get into it was that Freddie couldn't bring himself to do it because he had just grown so close to Martin and it was just too hard. So I thought it was very touching the way at the end of the first episode that they recognized John Mahoney, and they had that clip of Martin looking at the camera in his old chair, which was basically a character itself in the Frasier, the old chair with the duct tape, and he's like, it all works out. And when I tell you, my eyes welled with tears. And then the second episode, I think we're definitely having they are basically the Force Awakenings us.
Oh, yeah.
With going back to the formula, but you have Frasier kind of have a moment of clarity with one of his colleagues, and he's like, I just couldn't, it just always felt like Dad was embarrassed of me and my fancy stuff. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you have Frasier being embarrassed with Freddie's kind of his box of dirt, which is from when the Red Sox won the World Series.
Right.
So I think I kind of figured they were going to do that with the two of them, have that back and forth, that reset. So they did it a little differently. So I'm fine with it. I think it'll play off of each other well. I don't really. I know that you're the type that's more like, ugh, but you knew they were going to do that. The moment we knew that Freddie was a firefighter and kind of we saw the preview.
Here's my main issue with what we've seen so far. I think they're doing very formulaic about what I expected to see out of this series. So I'm not really bothered by that. I kind of expected that was the direction they were going to go. Nobody except Frasier has any depth.
I think we'll probably get to know Freddie a little more later.
Yeah, but right now, just none of the other characters are in any way compelling to me.
I think part of that is you don't know them yet, though. We have to give them a chance.
Daphne Moon walked into Frasier's apartment, and within 2 minutes, you were like, oh, there's a great character. Yeah. Martin Crane. Great character. Niles, come on. The first time you see Niles. Okay?
Niles made the original series.
He made the original series. Roz, all those characters, and I realize that I am saying that with 10, 11 seasons worth of show in my mind. But none of these characters.
A while, though, to build up to that for me though. I loved Niles right away, but Roz and Daphne, you don't see a ton of their personalities.
But other than Frasier, who has done that?
I mean, I'm interested.
Who's
to see
carrying
where
the
Frederick
show
goes
except
on.
for Frasier?
I can tell Frasier's professor friend, some of the lines he's delivered, I could hear David Hyde Pierce.
He's a stand-in for
he's almost like a
Niles.
Mix of Niles and Roz.
Yeah.
The way he's ribbing Frasier. But the part when he's like, have you considered that he hates you? I heard that line being said by David Hyde Pierce.
Yeah. He's a stand-in for those two characters to kind of give
I agree.
Frasier somebody beyond Freddie to talk to.
I agree with what you're saying. And I'm sorry I interrupted because I'm so passionate. But I do think that you need to realize that even though we're seeing that right now, there's no way for us to unremember these characters because we've known them for so long. Like Daphne.
I get that. And I will be interested. We can revisit this conversation at the end of the season and see if we still feel the same way. My concern is I'm not going to feel any different.
I think I'm going to like Freddie because we're going to get more of him in Frasier, obviously. But I think right now my biggest thing is I know that Roz is supposed to be on the show, and I know that Lilith is going to show up, and I'm just waiting for these two. I can tell you who my least favorite character is. Niles and Daphne's son, David.
Oh, yeah, he's bad.
I feel like they were trying to make him kind of neurotic like Niles, but he's giving me Sheldon Cooper vibes.
Yeah, they've gone too far. They've taken it a little bit too far.
And I hope Freddie beats him up because he took the box of dirt that was on the piano and dumped it into the plants. I hope that's addressed in the next episode.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I know.
In fact, I will say, if the writers have done anything correctly, is that I do have one strong emotion towards one of the other characters that's not Frasier, and it's David, and I hate him.
Yeah. And it's like, I know they were trying to make him, that, hey, Niles was his dad, but I don't, like, what about
Daphne's
Daphne?
His mother, yeah.
Now, if David would be this neurotic and then mention that he has psychic abilities to bring it back to Daphne a little bit, I would enjoy that. I know they have another child, if we were to believe Daphne's vision is correct, and I hope she's normal. The daughter.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see Alice, Roz's daughter?
I don't know.
Because she would be a little bit younger than Freddie, but she'd be older than David.
Again, I don't want them to just shoehorn that in unless it makes sense. For like, if Roz comes to see Freddie, what we know that the actress that played Roz is going to show up.
I cannot wait for Perry Gilpin to show up.
So the question is, if it makes sense for Alice to be with her, fine. But Alice is going to be like a full-grown college graduate potentially at this point in time. So there better be a good reason why she's just traveling around the world with her mother to go to Boston.
Because the reason why David is in Boston now,
he's going to Harvard.
He's at Harvard.
Yeah.
It just felt like they were trying to give us a little piece of Niles, but they gave me Sheldon instead. Mm-hmm. Like, Niles still had social skills.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
David is just, he's not, maybe he'll grow on me. That is one thing that I had read. I read some spoiler-free reviews from people that were at the live tapings in my Reddit group, and a lot of people were like, David is the one I'm like, about. So I did have that preconceived notion of it, and I'm like, oh, I can see it. And perhaps it is because I love Niles so much.
See, now if they've started him out in this 2 episodes, and by the end of the season, like Freddie has a bit of an effect on him, that would be good character growth. But I'm just worried that's not.
Well, I mean, you saw Niles change.
Yeah,
he still was neurotic Niles by the end, but Daphne helped loosen him up. Even Roz helped loosen him up. One of my favorite things from the original Frasier was how Niles and Roz were always like kind of quipping at each other, but then while they still did that, they actually formed quite a friendship at the end of this series, and I always really enjoyed that. Never ship them. People that ship those two are gross. Ew.
I agree. They're terrible people.
They're terrible people.
That ship those two.
But I'm looking forward to episode 3. I do not think it's going to have the memorable effect on me that Frasier did. But I'm enjoying seeing the character of Frasier again. They do address it, for those wondering. Laura Linney's character, she played Charlotte, who Frasier, ended up with at the end of the series, or we're to presume that he did because he decides to flow to Chicago.
Well, it's not presumed anymore.
Yeah, it's not presumed anymore.
It's now been confirmed.
They were together for 20 years. He did live in Chicago, had a nice life, and then she got sick of him, I guess, and left, which I thought was interesting. I'm pretty sure I read an interview where Laura Linney was like, yeah, I would have done. They didn't ask me, so I guess maybe they just assumed they couldn't get her, or they wanted to have Frasier single and still hasn't really learned anything.
Yeah.
Because at one point he did think that Freddie's roommate had a crush on him. And she just liked the way his voice sounded that soothed her baby to sleep. And the way he's so full of himself sometimes. He's like, oh, the spotlight with the interview. It just
listen. You could say a lot of things about Kelsey Grammer, but the actor, he can fall back into that Frasier character at the drop of a hat.
I mean, he's been playing it for forever.
Yeah, it's just he knows how to do that.
Now, you said something as well that struck me, and I read an interview saying that they would address it. I'm not sure, but I'm like, I agree with you. We got to go to Cheers once while we're in Boston.
You have to.
If he's living in Boston, he's not going to swing by.
They made a joke about it,
Yeah.
If they don't in season
too
one,
much time at a bar.
by season 2, they have got to make. They've got to. Do you? Okay.
I think Ted Danza would be down to do it. Don't you?
But let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about Hollywood. Do you know what they like more than anything?
Nostalgia?
Money.
Money, yes.
What would get people to sign up for Paramount Plus if season 2 of Frasier, they start advertising, hey, he's going back to Cheers.
Yeah, at least for one episode.
I mean, everybody would join in because they'd want to see that. All the old Cheers fans.
Hey.
Get whoever's still kicking from that show to show up. Basically make it a Cheers reunion episode. You're telling me people wouldn't show up to watch that?
I would hope so. They did.
I'm not a Cheers fan. I'm not advocating for that. I do think it doesn't make any sense that he spent all that time in Boston.
And now he's back living in Boston.
Went there all the time and isn't going to step in and check it out.
I like how the bar's name is Mahoney's, which is after John Mahoney. Yeah. And then they also honored the dog that played Eddie's real life name was Moose. And then Moose's son and grandson would play the other Eddies as the series went on. I know I'm info dumping, but they one of Freddie's fireman friends' name was Moose.
Yeah.
So I liked how they had those little touches. I'm excited for the next episode. I don't think it's going to be one of those shows. Like, if it gets another season, I don't think it'll have 11 seasons like Frasier did.
No.
But it is enjoyable to me to see that character again in this next phase of his life.
All right. Well, after that, we've also watched the second episode of Marvel's Loki, season 2.
On Disney Plus?
On Disney Plus.
What'd you think?
Better than the first episode.
Agree.
Certainly they're building towards something. I don't know. It's just everything else that happened in that episode, and all I can think about is that McDonald's.
Same. Literally, that was my thoughts. I know we're talking about McDonald's twice in this podcast. Can we just go back to when McDonald's used to look like that?
The only thing, and I don't think, did McDonald's ever have the greenhouse?
No, Wendy's had the greenhouse.
If I could have a McDonald's
had the play place.
The play place, and it was kind of a greenhouse.
It was probably like a can of germs.
Oh, absolutely.
The ball pit of germs.
Terrible, awful, disgusting place to be.
But how fun
something
was it
about
when you got
that
to
look.
Play
It was like 1979 in the episode.
Oh, I thought they were in the
80s.
It was 79.
Yeah, but they must not have improved, because that's what my McDonald's, hometown McDonald's, looked like.
Yeah, our hometown McDonald's looked like that till probably up until like 2008. Before they did that
classic
new design.
look, and they had all the styrofoam.
I'm not looking for fancy at McDonald's.
No.
I'm not looking for fancy. Don't try to make McDonald's look like a Starbucks. It's just it's McDonald's.
Okay. So for everybody who doesn't have any idea what we're talking about, the episode they're trying to find Sylvie to find out what happened at the end of season 1, because if we recall, she kicked Loki through a time door
and then
stabbed he who remains. So they don't actually know that happened. And so they're trying to find Sylvie. They torture this Brad guy who had. It was unclear. He had escaped to a timeline and become an actor.
Was that his original timeline?
Yeah, it wasn't clear that was his original timeline, or if he had just taken over for something.
And he enjoys that timeline now.
Yeah.
And it was like in the 70s where he was too, right?
Yeah, that was, yes, also.
Okay.
And so he was like enjoying himself and having a good time, and they come and capture him and interrogate him to try and find Sylvie, and they show up at the McDonald's and I think that was a branch timeline.
Because that's where she jumped to. And if you have to watch, we didn't see it until someone on the internet was like, and I'm like, oh, that's where all these TikTokers come from. You had to see the scene with Sylvie going to the McDonald's at the end of the credits of episode 1 of season 2. So
she basically is there wanting to just live a normal life. Really.
She's like working there now.
Yeah, and she seems
driving
perfectly
a truck.
fine with it. Yeah. And so they show up.
Cause chaos.
They end up finding out that the other TVA person who was in Game of Thrones is getting ready to like bomb all the branch timelines that have been created since end of season 1. And she accomplishes it. They get there just in time to stop her a little bit.
She's the woman that Littlefinger ended up with that was still like breastfeeding her son when he was like 10 years old.
Yes.
For those that don't know.
Yes. And so she ends up, she does it. Like,
yeah, she does.
I saw a meme on...
She successfully eliminated a bunch of the
branches. I saw a
branches.
meme on TikTok that was like, that lady just killed more people than Thanos.
Like genocide, what she just did.
She got more people
right?
more people than Thanos.
Wow.
With killing all those branches off. And so that's kind of where we ended it.
It was a good second episode. I feel like season 2 in season 1, I almost feel like I'm watching just an extended movie because
really do, yeah.
I know I made this joke last week. Yes, there are time jumps, but in terms of when sometimes you watch a finale of a season, then you get to the next one, they will have, your traditional TV show time jump. This it picks right up. It's just going through it. There's really no slowdown. I'm already seeing character growth in Loki though.
Sure.
Yay, I love Loki.
And so I think next episode, what we can expect, probably they're going to find out what happened from Sylvie.
Do you think we'll find out what Mobius's past life was? Because it seems like he's not interested.
There has been multiple trailers where they've been out in front of a
jet ski
sales place. And so if Mobius doesn't end up there,
at least get that man on a jet ski.
Yeah, exactly. So we're liking Loki's episode 2.
Excited to see where the season goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where the season goes. The villain really hasn't even been involved.
Yeah, he might not
be
in a bunch of episodes because right now they have villains in the TVA they have to deal with.
And we're back into The Bachelor in Paradise.
Almost Paradise.
Episode 3.
Did
I watch all of this? Episode 3 was good.
You did. You watched the whole thing with me and you were enjoying it. You were. It was better than fine.
Well, they spent half the episode talking about poop.
Yeah. So, I think so far this season of Bachelor in Paradise is so much better than last season's. I feel like last season was super boring to me. I don't know. I just didn't care for last season very much. But right now, this one has been pretty good so far. So, as Daniel said, in this episode, one of the contestants, Sam, I guess she's not a contestant, so it's kind of a competition, but we'll call her cast members. She was going on day 9 of no pooping.
No pooping for 9 days.
And she's a tiny girl. I feel like if I went 9 days without pooping, I would look so bloated and huge. Like I would be pregnant with what they did refer to on the show as a what?
A poop baby.
A poop baby.
They had a name. She said.
They actually had a medical doctor come in, and then they made him do the little confessional thing. And I'm like, do you think he's an actor? I think he was probably really a doctor that they just got on there. And he's explaining okay, so we've exhausted all options. You've taken laxatives. You haven't gone. He's like, if you don't go in the next 10 hours at sunrise, that's what they were saying. He's like, we're going to have to deliver, bring you in and do an operation to deliver you a poop baby. Did he say one of the poop babies was 16 pounds?
16 inches long.
16 inches long. Okay, 16 pounds would be a lot.
That'd be a lot of poop.
That'd be a lot.
She did say that she was still very hopeful and excited to be on the show, and she wanted to make sure that she was able to deliver the poop baby so that she could stay on the show.
Yes.
And she said, I might even have to name the poop baby Hope.
I
made that note
said
specifically. That. Yes, she did.
I thought it was her, the guy she's talking to on the show.
Oh, maybe it was him.
Yeah,
but I made sure that's my only note for this episode.
Thank you for that.
The name of the poop baby is forever now Hope.
So one of the Aarons, I forget which Aaron he is. I think Aaron B is the other Aaron. So this is Aaron S. I think that's the one that gave her the rose. They've kind of been coupled up, and he's a paramedic and a firefighter. So I thought when she explained to him what was going on, I'm like, this is a make or break it relationship moment. Yeah. He was very understanding. He did exactly what you said you would do. You were like, I would be taking a shot of olive oil and drinking coffee.
Yeah, mad.
And he brings her over 2 different cups of coffees, and he's like, both of us, we're both going to do a shot of olive oil. So he's, that's probably going to make him have to poop a lot. So, solidarity. He's the one that said, we might have to name the poop baby Hope, I think. Or maybe she said it. I thought it was him that said it.
It doesn't matter who said it at this point.
All I know is that my facial expression was like, how nice. I could be the first Bachelor in Paradise
poop baby
named Hope. That was my best couple moment that I've seen on the show so far.
Listeners of this podcast, I just want to put out a cry to you right now because I'm going to tell you, she's not going to let me name this episode a poop baby named Hope.
We're not naming that. We're not naming that episode that.
And if you all are just as irritated by that as I am, let her know about it.
And you know what? And I'll let you know. No, I have to draw the line somewhere. I have my dignity. But I do hope she delivers it. Because that was the best date that I've seen. It was so understanding. If you can talk about poop with your partner, you can get through a lot of stuff. And then they even had, I feel like she's going to, because I don't think the show would be being so campy about it if she wasn't, because they had a poop countdown, little clock going on.
I think if
On the
something
side of it was like 4 hours till poop baby.
If like they knew next episode, because they teased us at the end of the episode, we didn't find out.
Of course, biggest cliffhanger we've had so far on the show.
If they knew that like she went in and had like serious medical issues from this, they wouldn't be playing it the way they are.
I don't think
she's
they would
clearly
either.
gonna have a moment of evacuation.
Like I feel like
before she has to go.
They would mention it because they always have like a drama of an ambulance, but I don't think they'd be playing. At least I hope not. But these producers can be super evil, as we know. So I don't think that they would do it and be making fun of it, like, because they're not really making fun of it, but I don't think they'd be camping it up so much if it wasn't a successful release. But you never know, because we do know these producers can be evil.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out next week. I hope everything came out all right.
Same.
That's all that happened on Paradise this week, so that's all I'm planning on talking about. Speaking of poop, Dancing with the Stars was Motown night. Now,
and we know what the reference is now.
Yeah, it was a commercial. It was a Pampers commercial that said poop is coming.
Yes.
That's it. I just, when I made my notes, instead of putting poop is coming, I could have put Pampers, poop is coming, and we would have understood.
Instead,
we got
confused.
There, but we were confused.
For like a week.
For a whole week.
Motown Night was fun.
In fact, we were watching the episode of show more intently for the commercials at start than the actual show.
To solve the mystery.
To solve the mystery of what in the world it was I was talking about.
We have to solve the mystery of the fall of the House of Usher and Poop Happens commercial. Anyway, let's actually talk about the show. Motown Night.
You're not going to let me put the word poop in the episode
title. No, I'm not.
Are you? This is crap. It was Motown Night.
Motown Night. I liked Motown Night. All great music. I much preferred Motown Night to Bond Night that they had last season, because Bond Night, almost all the music sounded the same, and I felt like there was less room for creativity in the dances that they had last year. Motown Night, great music, great mix of dances. It was a fun night.
Yeah, a lot of the dances were really good.
So good.
Yeah, I don't have a lot
Who's the standout for you right now?
It's still Jason, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Jason. He did a jive, which is another hard dance. Absolutely nailed it. I think he's got talent. I looked up. I was like, does he have dance experience? And he literally said that when he was at one of the, I think, some Academy Performing Arts, he dropped out because of his dance.
Right.
He didn't want to do the dance class.
No, he does not.
So, and it's not like where he's a singer that he does choreography or anything in his dances. He's just a guy that sings.
No, he just stands up there and sings. He's not like the NSYNC or somebody doing dances along with the lyrics.
He's not like that. And NSYNC is awesome. But he's got, I think, some natural talent, but I think he also has the best choreographer of the pros, Daniela.
Sure, yes.
I've seen what Daniela, and I'm really excited about this because I think of the people that Daniela has worked with so far, I think he has the most natural talent. Like, Amon got better and better, and she really worked with Amon's skill set and how to make him look good as a dancer. Nelly, did improved as well. And then Joseph, she kind of had to work around his skill set. I feel like with Jason, she has someone that can really purely dance, and I'm really excited to see what else she can do with him. He's already nailed the Roomba. He's nailed the jive. Like, those are two very hard dancers, and he's done a great job with them.
The only thing I think he's lacking that some of those other partners she's had in the past is just the pure strength.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely not needed.
No. She needed it with Amon.
Yeah.
And she needed it with Joseph.
Like, those are the reasons why she won with Amon and got so far.
Oh yeah.
With Joseph, but with Jason, that if he had that strength, it would only be a bonus. But he is.
I think he'll be able to do some lifts with her, but they're not going to do the crazy stuff that she and Amon did. So yeah, he's my standout. I thought Sochi, Gomez, and Val had another great dance. I'd say those Charity from, like you said, Bachelorettes are always good. That's what you said last week. Stand by that.
Yes, I do.
Ariana Maddox, she did good. I feel like those are kind of the top ones. Lele could be good. Like, there's so many, like, even.
Yeah, it's very, like, other than Jason, it's kind of this middle. There's a big bulge at the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's a few people at the bottom.
I do think they, again, are underscoring Barry. Pete is actually giving Barry the dance steps to do.
Yes.
And not dancing around him, and it's frustrating. Let's see. Who left? Oh, Tyson Beckford left.
Regardless of our feelings towards some of the people that are still left, like, Tyson was not very good.
Yeah, I liked that he was excited. He seemed very excited to be on the show.
He seemed excited to be there, yes.
Was having fun. Obviously, I was hoping that it would be Adrian Peterson, who lives to see another week. So, but it was Tyson. He's gone. And this is going to be, I think that you're going to have some surprises this season without that judge's save. Like we've gotten used to the judge's save the past several seasons. Like it's been a long time.
That's true.
Since they haven't done that. And that could mean somebody really, really good does leave and somebody like Harry stays. Because Harry and Riley, which that was one of Harry's better dances, but he's probably one of the worst ones that's currently left right now. Like, I think he might be, I don't know, maybe on the even playing field with Adrian in terms of just ability. I think that the real estate mogul is better than both of them. I don't know who's voting for this dude, though. Do a lot of people like that show?
I have no idea.
Because he's on the Real Housewives of
You're looking at the wrong person for statistical data about that show.
So I guess we'll see. I'm super excited for tonight's Dancing with the Stars episode. It's Disney night. Last year they did it. They changed it up a little bit and did Disney Plus night because the show was just on Disney Plus. But now they're going to do the Disney 100 because, 100 years of Disney. That's what they're celebrating at all of the parks. I know that Jason and Daniela are getting, I'm pretty sure they're getting Aladdin. So I'm like, oh, this is already going to make me like it maybe more. And everyone's always like, oh, we do Aladdin so much. I'm like, yes, and I want them to keep doing the Aladdin dances. So I'm pretty excited. I always like Disney nights. The costuming's fun. Obviously, we're Disney fans. I think we've gotten a lot of really good dances out of Disney night before. And then after Disney night, I don't know if that's when Taylor night is going to be. That'll be awesome. But I'm always excited for Halloween night. That's probably your favorite,
yeah,
right?
Halloween night's always the best. Well, Halloween night is good for multiple reasons. The Halloween theme, obviously. But by that point, the really bad people are pretty much gone, and everybody left has got a shot.
We get a lot of contemporaries on Halloween night.
They give you a little bit more freedom in your dances. Most of the people there not only deserve to be there, but also have been dancing now for 8 to 9 weeks.
Because they start off earlier. They rehearse a couple weeks before that first episode, and then from that first episode, it's okay. You got to learn your next dance, your next dance, your next dance.
And so you get some really good creative dances, and they actually know how to do them.
I think it would be cool if we got a Danny Pasha finale. Pasha is the one that's dancing with Ariana Madix. He's married to Danny, and that man had to dance with Carol Baskins. He's always getting the old people. Yeah. He finally has a partner, I think, that could go to the finals. So I think that'd be really cool.
I think she definitely has the votes, too.
Yeah, because that show's everybody loves that show.
Yeah. It's
huge. Speaking of Ariana, on another reality show, her ex that apparently cheated on her with her best friend, and all of America hates him because everybody apparently watches the Vanderpump Rules but us. Tom on Special Forces. We know that his big episode would have already aired because Special Forces airs on Monday, but we'll probably watch Special Forces later this week. So we've seen the whole preview dedicated to him. I don't hate this guy on Special Forces, but then again, I've never seen Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah, he seems fine. He's not. They haven't focused on him a lot yet. Like you said, we might have one coming up, but
it could be a humdinger.
On him.
As I'm saying this, but
this was another brutal episode.
Yeah, it was episode 3 of Special Forces. 2
people dropped before they did anything.
Yeah, we had Brian Austin Green.
Yeah, and Robert Ory, basketball player. They brought them all out and basically, hey, does anybody want to quit?
Yeah, I think they overheard them complaining in their little quarters where they sleep, and Brian Austin Green was like, yeah, I'm out. They didn't even do the challenge yet, and they both just quit.
Yeah, that just shows you that shows you the staff guys ability to read people.
Oh, for sure.
They knew. So in fact, they even said, 2 people are going to quit today.
Yeah.
And 3 people quit.
Because I know Brian Austin Green was like, I'm 50. 3 people quit. Oh, Savannah quit later. She did some of the challenges though.
She quit before they had to jump off that.
Yeah, she quit
boat.
Before the second challenge.
Yeah.
So once again, Special Forces so good. Their challenge this week was was very similar to one that they did last season, where they have to drive a car. They have to protect the car behind them. So Nick Viall, former Bachelor, was the first one that passed. I think JoJo passed. Mm-hmm. Tom passed. I know the people that failed. Jack Osborne failed.
He was mad about it, too.
He was really mad about it. And then their second challenge that they did was they had to put these wetsuits on, swim in this really cold water, and then they had to dive, or not dive, like backwards dive off this platform. And if you did not like keep your body straight when you did your free fall, and you even like, because I feel like your body naturally, instinctually would want to like kind of bend a little bit. And if you bent, you would like do the opposite of like a belly flop. Would we call that a back flop?
No, they'd belly flop because they would go all the way over.
Oh, and they would almost like turn
flop.
over,
into that ice cold water.
It looked very painful.
It did not look like it was fun. No.
So a handful of them passed. Some of them didn't pass. What did they say? JoJo failed, and they're like, what they say? Most abysmal fail ever, or miserable. That was a miserable fail. That's what it was. I think she still could do well in the show, though.
I do too. She just needs to just keep her head down and do the challenges.
She seemed a little not upset, but a little like, ugh, when Brian Austin Green left.
It's funny because you don't have to pass any of these challenges.
Yeah, if
to
you
get
stick
through
it
the
out
show.
mentally.
You just got to mentally make it through the show.
She seemed a little bummed when Brian Austin Green left because
I wonder. Like, I know last season we had a couple people where one person left, and then somebody that they'd been close to just dropped immediately after them because they were like they knew there was no way they were going to make it without that person. And so I wonder if we have any of those bonds around.
And Savannah Chrisley left before she did the car challenge, but she did not do the diving challenge. They
even brought her in and did like the little interrogation conversation, and it seemed like she wanted to be there, but then that was she saw that challenge and was like, no thank you.
She's like, I gotta go be home, because she's right now like both of her parents are in prison. That's another reality
are they
show.
They're both in prison? You wouldn't have known that from like 15 every time she's there she's saying it. And I feel for somebody in that situation.
We've never seen that reality show either,
but it's like your whole personality has now been based around this.
Chrisley knows best, so she's like the actual like now guardian of her 10-year-old sister, I think 17-year-old brother. And then like, because I'm pretty sure like we talked about it, like I think it's 8 days of training, but they probably have to quarantine for a week. And I think
they're gone for 2 weeks.
I don't know if they get paid more if they last the whole time, but I'm sure they get paid like just by having an appearance on the show. So you probably already got your paycheck. Get out of there. And this show does not play favorites. Like we found out with Des Bryant last week when he threw a fit and then came back, was like, hey, I'm sorry, I blew up. They were like, yeah, well, you gotta go. But you know what reality show I did watch? The Osbournes. So I am still rooting for Jack Osbourne. And I know he is kind of like, and I've read a lot about the special forces. Yeah, he definitely has like a know-it-all kind of attitude. I feel like this is the most I've ever heard Jack Osbourne talk on this show. I
feel like in the car challenge this last episode,
he was mad.
He watched last season and thought, okay, I just need to gun it out of here, and didn't pay enough attention to realize that the challenge was not the same thing they did. It was in a car, but it wasn't the same thing they did with cars last year. Yeah. And I think that might be the pitfall he drove into. But
it kind of did the interrogation thing with him, and he cried and got emotional. Found out I didn't know he had MS.
No, I didn't know that either.
So that would be, you could say, like, because you could see when they were doing the push-ups as punishment with the bags on him, like he was in
struggling,
really bad pain. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else they put these guys through in episode 4. I feel like our two, like Tyler Cameron from the Bachelor franchise and Nick Viall, because Hannah Brown won last year, I feel like these two are going to try their hardest to make it to the end so they don't get beat once again, because the Bachelorettes just dominate the men. The Bachelorettes are always the one that does better on Dancing with the Stars. Anytime we have a Bachelor on Dancing with the Stars, they're like mid. So I wonder if like the pressure's on for the guys at Bachelor Nation. What do you think?
I don't think they're thinking about it that hard.
Knowing the ego of Nick Viall, I think probably.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm liking Nick better on the show than I do in the Bachelor world. He actually seems like he's trying, and he seems like he's nice on the show.
Okay, so let me make this statement. You've watched way more Bachelor universe stuff than I have.
Absolutely.
But some of the things that the Bachelor and Bachelorettes have showed up on exterior to that, I watch with you a lot. I've never hated I'm not hated all of them when I've seen them outside of that toxic environment.
Again, production is evil. But you know what else is evil? We're not really evil. Bat!
Yes, folks, we have finished season 1 of What We Do in the Shadows.
And the season 1 finale was chef's kiss.
Yeah, it was really good. I did not expect this silly little vampire comedy show to have you had a moment where you were like,
Yeah.
like at the reveal.
I did. And I don't want to say even though like this is a show where like if you haven't watched it yet, like whoa, we are a spoiler podcast because this is a show that we're watching now and I kind of want you guys to react with us. I actually don't want to spoil that reveal.
Okay.
I want them to.
But it was really well
very
done.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, it was really well done. It was something they seeded all through the season, but they never led on to what was actually about to take place. And I thought it was really good.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was perfect on every level. And you kind of compared it. You're like, this. They kind of did almost, because if you guys have ever seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, they'll often have kind of a joke at the beginning of the season or a shtick that they will work towards. And then by the very end of the season, like the time, I don't know what season it was, but was in Larry used the handicapped restroom. And it was like a whole thing. And then it got addressed in like the last episode. And it was just the way they tied it all together. And you're like, well, they kind of did a Curb Your Enthusiasm thing here. That's what you said when we finished it, and they totally did. So that show's funny. When I scream bat, it's because Laszlo.
Nobody else screams bat when they turn into a bat except for Laszlo.
He's just so funny. The whole show's so funny. It really is like Parks and Rec and The Office meet vampires. Season 1 was just great. I just wasn't expecting like the little reveal at the end that they did, and it was just good.
It was good. Yeah, I enjoyed
Guillermo.
it.
Do you think Guillermo's going to be a villain? Because they did reveal that in his DNA test.
Yeah, that he was related to what? Van Helsing. He's related to Van Helsing, known vampire killer. He's already killed 2 vampires on the season 1, and then at the end there, he like throws those stakes, not intending to do anything, but they just perfectly go into the vampires' portraits on the wall.
Are we going to see the new vampire soon? Again, we haven't really seen her.
Yeah, we didn't see her for a while. I wonder if she'll be in season 2 or not. So
I'm excited. I love the theme song.
Oh, the theme song is great.
Theme song.
Yeah,
the
theme song is great. So
speaking of other good theme songs, once again, your favorite time of the podcast, the OC rewatch. Episodes 10 through 15 we have watched. Those episodes are entitled Episode 10, The Accomplice. Episode 11, The Second Chance. Episode 12, The Lonely Hearts Club. Episode 13, The Father Knows Best. Episode 14, my favorite, The Rainy Day Women. And episode 15, the Mallpisode. So
I would just want to.
It's been a lot of stuff.
I want to dive in. I just want to start right now, and I want to tell you that the writers of this show should be taken out to the stockades and whipped for what they've done to Sandy Cohen. It is a trap. I don't blame Sandy one little bit because he is just this imaginary character who's being written in this way, and it's not his fault. And I just want to give him a hug because these writers are doing him dirty.
What murder? Not that Sandy murdered.
He didn't murder anybody.
Okay, so with that, the Lindsay arc has continued. We have reached the conclusion of the Lindsay arc with this set of episodes, but we've also started the Let's Mess with Perfect Couple Sandy and Kirsten era. So Sandy's ex-fiancée, Rebecca Bloom, comes back into the fold. Sandy meets up with his mentor from school. He was engaged to this woman. She just kind of disappeared because she committed a crime, only to find out that she didn't really commit the crime, but she was totally an accomplice to the crime, so whatever. And yes, I do believe in... I don't think he's had full-blown character assassination, though.
No, but
questionable things
questionable
happened.
Choices. He made questionable choices.
When Jimmy kissed Kirsten pulled back. When Rebecca kissed Sandy leaned in.
Yes.
So you think the writers are trash for that?
Trash, absolutely.
Obviously, trash. Sandy realizes, and I think you could. Not that I'm defending this behavior at all, but Sandy never got closure with this woman.
Well, sure, she just disappeared.
She just disappeared. So I think it's normal that he have these conflicting feelings because his mentor's dying. He's wanting to save her case, but he definitely was not honest with Kirsten, and he made up like, "Oh, you could have been like." Because they're still going to ask. They ended up asking Kirsten's question anyways about it.
And
he just wasn't as forthright as he should have been, and that's definitely created some issues with their marriage. And that's now Kirsten's about probably in our next time we do the rewatch. We watch the episode where kind of her downfall is going to start because she's coming off this, this issue of Sandy kind of broke her trust. She's upset about it. So we got that coming. We got that to look forward to. Not looking forward to that at all. I hate what they messed with Sandy and Kirsten. So you're very upset about these writers.
Very upset.
They did have in the Rainy Day Women, though, that was a nice scene between it. She's like, "Is it over?" And he's like, "It never started." and then they kissed.
Yeah, it was, but you
and
can
I
still
wish
tell
they
from
would have
her
ended
face.
that arc there.
You could still tell from her face that she's, even though she's hurt by it, and it's heartbreaking.
Kirsten is a classic introvert, the way she shows her feelings and her emotions. She just doesn't come around and be like, I am so mad at you. Unlike Miss Summer Roberts, that's who I'm more like. She's like, Seth Cohen, I'm mad at you. That's the way their characters go. So let's just jump into the Lindsay arc.
Okay.
We find out that, I think we already found out in
Yeah.
the Chris McCall episode that we talked about in our last rewatch, but we know for sure that Caleb is her dad. Caleb
For sure, because
for sure.
he ends up making her get a DNA test.
Because Julie
Manipulated-
comes back
Julie
from
manipulated
Paris.
the whole situation.
Yes. So Caleb does finally try to connect with Lindsay, and Lindsay they seem to enjoy spending time together.
After his heart attack.
But she tried to spend time with him
Yeah.
before the heart attack, but Caleb is still, kind of a douche about Ryan, thinks Ryan's wanting to take the Cohen's money, and I think Caleb's just a grumpy old man. But then Caleb has these sweet moments. Both Caleb and Julie are good villains because they're not straight up villainy.
Mm-hmm.
They have their good moments where you actually like these characters, and then they turn right around and tick you off.
Yeah. So
like earlier this season, like Julie hasn't been much of a foil. Well, she comes back from Paris after Caleb has a heart attack and decides, she's obviously threatened by, if he's going to formally adopt Lindsay, that it's going to cut into her inheritance, Marissa's inheritance, because she's all about the dollar signs, baby.
Which is funny because when she talks about Marissa, it's not even about inheritance with her, because she's already thinking about how she can cut out of this marriage. So she's thinking divorce.
Well, she wants to make sure that she's taken care of financially. Yeah. Marissa's taken care of financially.
And that other kid that's off at some place somewhere that we've forgotten
school.
about this entire season.
We'll see Caitlin again by a different actress in season 3. So, of course, Julie comes back and has to kind of ruin the whole thing. And then we're watching it where they're having the issue, and Lindsay's so upset about the DNA test, because I'm like, Lindsay should be more mad at her mom, because her mom was like, because Caleb, as villainy as he was, his reason was like, I was cheating on my wife. I didn't want it on record that I fathered this baby, so I was just willing to pay the hush money, pay the money, get this thing over with to not screw up my marriage, my family. So crappy thing that he did, but you see the sound reasoning. Renee, Lindsay's mom, we find out, well, suddenly she's like, it might have not been Caleb. So did Renee go for the richest man that she slept with to get the money?
That seems to be the case.
Seems to be the case. Shady, a little shady. And I'm sitting there thinking with like Lindsay, so I'm using like the brain of my age now, and I'm like, you know what? I would want to know, like, do I want this Darth Vader man, who's not Anakin, by the way? They made that reference in the show. Do I want this villain to be my father, or is there a possibility of somebody else? And I'm also sitting there thinking, like, you should know, like, just for like genetics and medical issues. So I'm like, I would have probably done the DNA test and been fine with it. But then I realized Lindsay's only 16.
Yeah.
And probably felt very hurt by this, because Caleb was going to have that party. He was going to formally adopt her. They were getting along so well. And then Julie kind of filled his brain with all this doubt. So then Lindsay sees the doubt. She's upset about it. But she ultimately does take the test. And do your best, Maury.
He's the father.
Caleb Nickel is the father. And then they kind of fake us out, thinking that Lindsay's going to move into Caleb's, which I think that would be crazy, because Renee's like decided she's going to just go to Chicago where her family is. But then that is the end of the Lindsay arc. She moves to Chicago. Ryan is very sad. Ryan is standing in the rain.
Yeah.
But we do get a beautiful Ryan and Marissa moment of just, that's why Ryan and Marissa, they are soulmates. Marissa just comes over and was like, hey. And he's like, hey. And she just stands, puts her arm around him to comfort him as a friend would do.
Puts
with
her
the umbrella
over him, because he's just standing there in the rain
there,
without an umbrella
getting
on.
soaked, because Lindsay represents just another person that's left
I
Ryan,
understand.
because he has such abandonment issues. But in that same episode, The Rainy Day Woman, we've already talked about the 2 plot points. I get my favorite Seth and Summer moment of season 2. Absolute favorite. We have them both listening to Boys to Men in their respective bedrooms. So they're both sad about it. We know this Zach has lasted a really long time, and we're not done with Zach yet. We're going to see more of Zach.
Yay.
He's such a nice character, but he's so bland. He's like dry cereal, like an adult's cereal with no flavoring.
Again, I put it, and Lindsay is very much that way as well. And
they're both plot devices.
They're both plot devices. They're both filler to keep the main people away from their actual ships.
Luke and Anna had personalities,
right? And but I think the writers knew that they didn't want these people to be somebody that the fans actually wanted them to stick with, and so they made them so bland that everybody was like, "Fine, get them out of here." When it's time for them to go back.
Because even though so much of Anna's purpose at the beginning was to kind of be like the thing to get Seth to have the confidence and eventually propel him with Summer, she still had kind of her own personality that I would have liked to have seen more of. And then Luke, yes, he was the initial foil to Ryan and Marissa, but we really got to start. I felt like Luke's character was just the touch of the surface was barely scratched.
Yeah.
And what could have been for that. So then we get these two people. So yeah, but anyway, Summer realizes that she still loves Cohen. So the California people, you people in California don't like rain.
Apparently.
We found this out when we went to Disneyland once in June and it was pouring the rain. And it wasn't even pouring the whole time. It was this weird misty rain. Yeah. I don't even think we had downpours like we have here.
No, because we were walking around in it the whole time.
Yeah, it was just a misty rain.
Kind of a misty fog.
And the park was almost empty. Like my first Disneyland experience, I was so spoiled.
Yeah.
Because it was so not crowded at all. And then when we went back a second time to Disneyland, it had like the normal crowds that felt like more like Walt Disney World crowds. And we're like, oh, okay. But anyway, they don't like rain. So Seth has his little Spider-Man hat on. I remember watching this episode live in my dorm room. Okay, I'm going to take you back. And I'm like, that's so hilarious. He's walking around in that. And then, so he goes out. He decides he's lost Summer. She's going off to Italy with Zach. He's going to lose her. So he goes up on his TV, goes out as one joy in life. He's like, I'm not going to let the universe take this from me. He goes up on the roof and he messes around with some ropes to fix the satellite dish, and suddenly he falls and he's upside down. I remember in my dorm room being like, because the Spider-Man movie had just come out with that upside down kiss scene with Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I was like, are they gonna do the Spider-Man kiss? And they did. And you know what, Daniel, and you agreed with me, as cheesy as it was, it worked.
It did. Yeah.
It worked for the tone of the show.
They had
those
Oasis
two characters.
on
Champagne Supernova
over top of it. It worked pretty well.
And she's like, so Summer, she just leaves her bags at the airport, I guess, because they were already been on the plane.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
she ran out. It was
rich people for you, right?
Okay.
Where you don't care about your clothes.
She brought all that stuff, and
hopefully
now
Zach brings them back.
Yeah,
so she runs through the house. Cohen's upside down, and they have the upside down kiss, which is super cute, super cheesy. But one of the things that I like about the OC, because these first 2 seasons of this show, while we have so much drama, they still manage to bring in humor, kind of cheese. They do go meta at times, and I really like it. We've started the comic book storyline too, which I told you that is going to play that's why in Zach, you're going to see more of him when he comes back from Italy. Also, big horizon with Marissa.
Oh yeah, she's dating another woman, Alex.
Which at the time that this would have aired, your lead female hooking up with another female, not a side character, your lead character. Like, I remember people being like, oh. So she's dating Alex, Olivia Wilde's character. They had a pretty good moment on the beach, but like what Julie says to Alex, you're this week's Gardner.
And Julie's right. Julie is being mean and nasty about it, but she's absolutely right.
I mean, Marissa admits it in the mall episode where they get stuck in the mall. She's like, I still think about Ryan every day. And even Julie's like, I've only seen Marissa in love one time, and he looked a lot different in a wife beater than you. She's clearly referring to Ryan. So even Julie knows it.
Which is why they put him in a wife beater that episode, right?
I think that's exactly why, so we could have that line. And I'm like, that just must be his travel clothes, like, not for Chino. Like, we put the wife beater back on, the sweatshirt. I did like the callback in that episode to Ryan and Marissa's first meeting. So they're at a place now, because they barely had any scenes during the Lindsay arc.
Yeah, it's been a while since they had any scenes whatsoever.
So they had that awkwardness at first. Now they're getting along again. And while Seth and Summer are once again arguing in the car, we have Ryan and Marissa in the diner. And she's like, okay, well, we can be friends. Like, so who are you? And he puts the French fry as if it's a cigarette, the way teenage kids do. And he does his line from the pilot, whoever you want me to be. Yeah. And I had forgotten that they had done that. And I just thought that was really funny. And again, anytime I get a good Ryan Marissa scene, I'm just so bummed out at the way everything's ultimately going to play out. Because they really are I believe Seth and Summer are meant to be. They're my favorite couple, but I do think Ryan and Marissa, even though when they're together, they hardly have happiness, there's just that pool between those two characters. They're very much Peyton and Lucasy, and that they're just meant, they're soulmates. They're connected.
Yeah.
And there's just something that draws those two characters together. So Rebecca Bloom, I don't know if we see her again. Did not like that woman. Does not hold a candle to Kirsten.
Not at all.
Not at
Terrible
all.
character. The writer should never have invented her and slandered Sandy Cohen's good name.
Like, at least when Jimmy was, like, trying to, like, kiss Kirsten, like, Jimmy was just a mess. And I'm not saying that Rebecca wasn't a mess. Clearly, she's on the run from the law, but she almost didn't even seem to care.
Oh, come on. Are you telling me that character was gone for 20 years, gets wind that her dad is looking up her old boyfriend, and that's when she chooses to come back?
I don't know. The whole thing. Character assassination by the writers, attempt to try to make Sandy not so perfect. We don't buy it.
No, not for 1 second.
So
midway through the season,
I feel like we've watched almost the whole season, and we got, again, man, these early 2000 shows and their content. We got a lot left.
Like at least 9 episodes.
Yeah, we know we got more Caleb drama. Julie's got some more drama. We've got the comic book plot episode to go forward. Let's see here. Alex storyline's not done yet. We've got Kirsten and her drama.
Doesn't Trey pop back in here at some point?
We've got Ryan's brother popping in to cause some chaos at the end of the season. So there's a lot left.
A lot left.
All
right, folks. Well, that will do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. We did want to quickly shout out, we do still have stickers in stock. If anybody would like one, we're not selling them. They are free. You just have to be willing to give us weirdos your physical address. Hope has nothing to say to that.
Yeah.
And so with that,
have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.